From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
I'm Marianne Brownlow. Welcome to Hill Center, and we're entering our 4th year of the life of a poet, which has been an absolutely wonderful program that we're very pleased to present with our partners, the Washington Post and the Library of Congress, and of course our extraordinary moderator, the inimitable Ron Charles. Our guest this evening is Brenda Shaughnessy, and I'm going to turn things over to Anya Brittany from the Library of Congress. She is the program manager for the Poetry and Literature Center, and she will introduce the evening, so please welcome Anya.
Hi everyone, glad to be here. I'm representing the Poetry and Literature Center, and specifically Rob Casper, who you may normally know in this role. He's with the Poet Laureate tonight, so he won't be able to join. So I'm thrilled and delighted to be in his stead. So thank you, Marianne, wherever she disappeared to, and to Diana Ingram and the rest of the Hill Center staff for hosting the Life of a Poet. And thanks, of course, to the Washington Post for their support, and to Washington Book World editor Ron Charles, as we have here, our moderator and guide. And for those who are first-timers to this series, I can tell you there's no one better to explore a poet's work than Ron Charles, so we're on for a treat tonight. I do want to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Poetry and Literature Center at the Library of Congress. We are the home of the Poet Laureate Consultant in Poetry, the only federally funded position for literary artists in the country. It also hosts a range of programs such as this one, just up the street at the library. So if you want to see more of our programs and check out our whole offerings, please check us out, www.loc.gov/poetry. And now I would like to introduce Brenda Shaughnessy for the spring kickoff of our Life of a Poet series. Brenda Shaughnessy's latest book, So Much Synth, has been named one of the best poetry collections of 2016 by Publishers Weekly and the New York Times. Her third book, Our Andromeda, published in 2013, was shortlisted for both the PEN Open Book Award and the International Griffin Poetry Prize. Taken together, her first and second books, Interior with Sudden Joy and Human Dark with Sugar, garnered 8 honors, a James Laughlin Award, and nominations for a Lambda Literary Award and a Norma Farber First Book Award among them. Shaughnessy earned a BA in Literature and Women's Studies at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and an MFA at Columbia University. Her poems have appeared widely in Best American Poetry, McSweeney's, New Yorker, Paris Review, the Yale Review, to name a few. In 2013, she became a Guggenheim Foundation Fellow and a recipient of a Howard Foundation Fellowship from Brown University. She's also received fellowships from the Radcliffe Institute, where she was a Bunting Fellow, and the Japan-US Friendship Commission. She's the poetry editor at large at Tin House Magazine and an assistant professor of English at Rutgers, Newark. Mary Jo Bang, herself a Life of a Poet reader, said of Brenda Shaughnessy, her voice is smart, sexy, self-aware, hip, consistently wry, and ever savvy. Hilton Alls believes Shaughnessy read sequentially, presents a speaker swathed in a cocoon. Good break. Of keen and incisive self-scrutiny, who undergoes a series of empowerments and connections that turn her into a ferocious source, a colossus. For me, Shaughnessy is all about the corporeal, the physical body as normative, legitimate, gazed upon, tremendous, but oft flawed. Her poems, the other corpus, are quick-looping, vivid, and propelling. Her attention is expertly slant, urgent, and desirous, or put even more simply, dazzling. We are lucky to have her with Ron Charles to help us further understand the impact of this essential work. So without further ado, please help me in welcoming Brenda Shaughnessy.
I'm so glad you're here. Thank you very much for coming.
I'm thrilled to be here.
New clipboard with clock. I will not be going over my 40 minutes the way I do sometimes. I've had the tremendous experience of reading your books in sequence, as you just said, and they really are remarkable and dazzling and witty and sad, all at the same time. I wanted to start with your first book, called Interior with Sudden Joy, a collection very much of the body, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you'd read a poem called Swell.
You know nobody ever asks me to read Swell,
I did not know that.
but I heard that you had an uncanny ability to pick poems that no one ever asks.
Does it include words you don't know how to say out loud?
Oh, no.
Because that happens to me all the time.
No, this book is filthy, so you really can't. There's not really anything in here that's...
I went around some of the more filthy ones.
Swell. Svelte with eventual sex. Who could help but gorge herself on low violet leaning everywhere? The shine and shifting slate of the sky murmurs its irresistible confession. I am more than blue if you are the violent imprint. I am swollen, vexed endlessly and only finite against your bodies. This slim stalk of silhouette slides via nimbus down the eyelights without a skirmish, glossy with sly undoing, blister-like. We are disheveled, though too skeptical to abandon our dimpled limbs and fill the insides of slips with mere threat and strop of thunderpeal. We toss freely with fever this mirror dissilvered and break into rain upon finding such umber yielding of frost to fibrous. This strumpet muscle under your breast describing you minutely, volupte, volupte.
It just announces itself. This is a voice you have not heard before, doesn't it? The language is so alive, so surprising, so daring, syntactically, and the subject too. What was it like for you to announce yourself with poems like these? What did it feel like?
At the time, you're not really announcing yourself. You know, you're sort of just scrapping around in your notebook,
Yes.
trying to figure out what
Feels right to you?
what you're about. I mean, that book was a book I wrote in my 20s.
Yes.
And I think that I felt so disempowered. I think I felt so lost that I just wanted to take the language and just go, you know, try to make it
Yes.
into something that was mine, you know. And so I think that was sort of the gist of it. Did I think anyone would read it or no? I thought it was just sort of a weird little exercise I was doing at home, like one might do like Zumba at home to save money, you know? Sort of like that. Or maybe do your own version of Zumba. Just your own.
Who were your poetic models when you were writing lines like that? Lines that use alliteration?
Yeah, I feel really vindicated because at the time when I was writing this book, my heroes were E. Cummings and Sylvia Plath, and at that time it was like those were embarrassing choices.
Why?
You remember, it was like 20 years ago. It was like if you liked Plath, you were sort of put in this category of like, oh, you just like the goth, suicidal, you know, girl, essentially. And now she's, I mean, in 20 years, like her reputation, I mean, she's now completely understood pretty much all corners as like a total genius, and her ability to like, you know, get at the reality of things is now understood to be unparalleled. For some reason, she was sort of underestimated. I loved E. Cummings, and he still has a kind of reputation of being a facile wordplay guy, but I loved it. I loved the way they both pulled language apart. I was fascinated by it.
And have fun with like that, with
So
stuff like
much
E.
fun.
Coming, and you do that too.
So much fun.
Yeah, that is surprising. And the subjects you write about in that book too are very, very intimate. For someone who felt powerless, who felt a little, well, what was that like to
It's so strange.
to write so intimately about your own body and your own sexual experience.
Yeah, I know, but I thought that I was keeping it all a big secret.
Because you never thought a publication.
No, I never thought anyone could understand what I was saying. I thought I had such a,
Yes.
It's like those people who wear like dresses with lots of beads on it and then they're backlit and it's totally see-through and they don't realize it. It's kind of like that. But, I mean, one example is that my grandmother on my father's side, who was very conservative, very religious. I was sort of running around as an out lesbian, in my 20s. And she didn't know that, I was closeted. But when this book came out, and I always thought of her as somewhat illiterate. I always thought of her as somebody who she didn't read, she didn't like poetry, wasn't interested in any of that. None of the arts, none of that was practical, none of it entered her psyche, but she got a hold of one of these books and told one of my cousins, it's disgusting, it's all sex. And I thought, like, how do you know? How did you read this, this, slinky lesbian, sex book so accurately? I just couldn't figure it out. But I was surprised. I felt seen. And not in a happy way. I felt like, oh God, my cover's been blown. If even my grandma can see that this is just so lustful, then
Sometimes you can't see it in your poems, but you can feel it. Because you've broken the syntax in strange ways. You're not always clear of the explicit sense of the sentence, but you can feel what's going on.
Right.
It sounds to me like you started writing in a diary in your teens. Is that...
Yeah, always. Always. I mean, when I was a kid. Does anyone still have any of their old diaries? I would give anything to still have them. You still have them?
Aren't they humiliating?
Sure. I bet they're humiliating. But then also it's like, I was still me. I was me all the way back then. Other times you don't recognize yourself.
In your latest book, you have a long, spectacular poem, a sort of Song of Myself poem that you all must read, but it's too long to read here. It's about 30 pages. It's called, Is There Something I Should Know? It is one of the great poems about what it's like to be a woman, to grow up, to be an adolescent, to go through this society. I just think it's remarkable. I wonder if you'd read the first part.
Yeah. Are there any Gen Xers who recognize the title of that? Is There Something I Should Know? No? It's a Duran Duran song. It's the title of a song by a band that existed. The first part? Okay.
To that break?
Yeah. If I were 14 again, I wouldn't be in this situation now, trying to write without a pen. Isn't blood a woman's ink? Back then, whatever I scratched into my well-filled, ill-hid diary was my existence, and those scribblings, fast as I could think, or slow as a carving a spell, formed the outer periphery of me, the inner lining. The rest of me, juice, some sponge, electricity like synth riffs, not interested in bringing light. Sometimes I just dumped rage and hurt, yearning for finer feelings, not the indignities I suffered. But if I suffered sharply, I could scarcely trace it soft. You think you're pretty, dork? Spat at me at school, transcribed as swirling ugly vortex, stupid me, alone in my room later. I scrounged for the words, keeping the scope of it all very open, universal, somehow dramatizing and minimizing. Quote, the worst thing in the whole world is that nobody cares, not even me. Who was I kidding? Even in my private diary, I performed myself to an audience of one, no one. A stock character playing to an empty house, though I had no theater experience at all. I lied outright, wrote daydreams as if true, was all-knowing and exquisite, simultaneously the worst person ever to have lived. Adolescence is all absolutes. If bad, one must be the very worst to avoid being mistaken for average. To be ordinary was just being invisible, and surely slow, naked death by ants hurt less than that. The middle was always for losers. The middle seat, the middle age, the middle child, the middle finger, middle school, middling. I remember writing, one thing I know I definitely am not is a totally bizarre person. Only a few years later, my entire persona so craved a real and lasting bizarreness. I fashioned it out of my relentless wholesomeness, easily, actually, because hallucinogens are great for making you think you actually are weird. But that came later. In junior high, I was a kid under the impression I was supposed to act grown up. And that meant knowing who I was and how groups started or shaped, like on the bus or at lockers, if you didn't go to the same grade school as a lot of people who all knew each other, and what to wear and how my own body worked at least. At least how to become friends with people I liked without just mimicking them and trying to figure out how to join their group. But how? And boys could tease you or yell anything, do anything. How'd you know where you stood? Every scene, lunch, PE, English, had different rules, invisible. They changed depending on who had power. That was never you. You couldn't just be yourself anywhere. There was an amazing story in me, one that I would live powerfully in wet velvet poetry. And this is a quotation from a Duran Duran song. And you wanted to dance, so I asked you to dance, but fear is in your soul. The voice of Simon Le Bon permeated all those new cells, the bloody ones, the ripenings, and I knew his love was deep. Too deep, maybe. Hard to know what anything he sang meant. He was also a little whiny. The perfect, pretty pout of John Taylor, however, with that sunken chest, fetishized forever after that, was new romantic, graceful, not as lurid with makeup as Nick Rhodes, but still breathtaking in girlish madness. Perfect, perfect, all absorbed in brooding sounds and slow, distant love that maybe insinuated sex, but was more like helpless desire, a beautiful man mooning over me. Much emotional clutching of said sunken treasure before glamorously running down the wet tarmac in a flapping linen suit to catch a plane to the next. Some people call it a one-night stand, but we can call it paradise. Yes, I'd be left, newly a woman, languid and a little tearful, thinking about my erotic awakening in the bungalow by really any of Duran Duran except Andy. No one liked Andy.
What did writing in that diary do for you now? No, sorry, that poetry does for you now? Anything? Is there any kind of satisfaction or?
Yeah, it's that splitness, that sort of split existence where you get to be simultaneously alone and completely free inside your mind.
Yes.
With this other sort of fantasy that you're actually expressing yourself and being heard.
Yes.
So it's the same, you get to have this two-in-one, which you never really have. Outer life and inner life are often just totally separated. Where we say one thing, but we're secretly thinking about how do I get out of this room? I gotta get out of here. Meanwhile, you're saying it's lovely. But with writing, you're not trying to please anybody. You have this amazing freedom, but yet there's this yearning to be understood, heard, listened to. And so that's the process.
The girl you were, writing in that diary, creating this persona of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
someone you aren't at all, or weren't at the time. Why write poetry now? Why not write prose or plays or letters?
Well, I think
What is it that drives you to poetry?
Because young, very young people, teenagers, they start writing poetry, right? Because it seems dramatic. It's like just the dramatic parts,
Yes.
none of the filler.
Right.
No scene setting, character development. It's just like get to the get to the drama, the emotion, and then I guess eventually you learn to appreciate all those other elements of life. But sometimes you just get kind of arrested in that moment where you just sort of want to sort of seek intensity, and it feels like that's a new reality. I got stuck there. I got stuck there, and it just seemed like the possibility of making a whole piece of art that was this long
Yes.
in a page, and maybe it was terrible, but it could be finished, it could be done, and it didn't have to sort of be this thing way out of your, you can start a novel, right? And you can say, have best intentions, and say, I'm going to write this novel every day. I'm going to keep writing and writing until it's done. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but with a poem, you can sort of just say, this is the world of this moment that I'm going to make, and it feels like you actually accomplished something, even if it's not good.
Some of your poems make it sound much more painful than that. Let me have you read one.
Well, you gotta externalize that word, otherwise it's stuck in you, and then you're just stuck having it be there. You have to sort of, it has to move.
To my 26-year-old self.
Why? Oh, I told Craig, my husband, that I did not want to put these poems in here. The letters to my former selves.
They're good. They're very good. They're funny and poignant. It's not long.
I know. To my 26-year-old self, you really are being such a poet, aren't you?
Now, what did you mean by that? That sounds very pejorative.
I'm mocking myself. I'm so annoyed at myself. This is a moment where this is a self-loathing poem.
Okay.
And so it's me as an older poet talking to this 26-year-old poet. To the 26-year-old self, who's just starting to imagine herself as a poet. You really are being such a poet, aren't you? $10 a week is the food budget, and that's day-old rolls for the freezer and looking for butts, and considering the offer from friends who can get you a job at their strip club. But you're too fat to be a stripper, you say, starving down to nothing. But this is the life of an artist, you say, even when the electricity shuts down and the cop on the corner offers you cocaine if you'll fuck him. But you need money, not drugs. You write poems in the dark and tell your friends you're dieting. But later, at the posh lesbian bar, when she leaves her $10 lychee martini to go to the bathroom, you steal it and promise in your head to write some lousy poem for her later to pay her back.
That sounds like it was a real struggle as a young poet.
What, being really poor?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. It's terrible.
And you had other skills. You were well educated. You could have done other things. You stuck with it.
It was very foolish. It was a very foolish decision to say, I just want to be a poet. I mean, my parents were appalled. It's a ridiculous thing to do.
What was it that made you stick with it? Through that sort of humiliation and poverty and even hunger, it sounds like.
People like drama because it proves they're alive, you know? I did have this sense that you kind of had to go out there and live the full range of feelings in order to have the material to write the poems. I didn't realize that life would just throw terrible things at me.
You didn't have to look for them.
I didn't have to look for any material. The material just comes. But I mean, this is a person looking back at her misperceptions. But it never was about the posturing and the excusing and trying to sort of say, well, this is how artists are. And it was a way to, what's the word? Create a holding pattern so that I could develop as a reader and as an artist. I had to stay alive, and I did all those jobs, the other kinds of jobs, being a secretary. I was a receptionist for 17 years, part-time on and off, starting when I was 16. I did all kinds of other jobs. I felt like wanting to be a poet was the only thing that was going to keep me from being totally ordinary. And like I said earlier in the other part, it just didn't, it just seemed like being a poet was the coolest thing you could choose to do. And this was a way of maintaining, sort of validating that idea.
In another one of your poems, you say, I'm most afraid of panicked mind alone, silent in the end.
See, when you take it out of context,
It's not fair.
it makes me think, did I really, is that the worst thing? Each poem is a moment, and sometimes they go back and forth in time where I'm actually recalling a feeling, and sometimes it's sort of recording that moment.
Right. It's not fair, I understand.
But I don't even remember it. Like, I don't remember what that's even from. Did I write that? Okay. I believe you.
Paradox plays such a delightful role in your poetry, sometimes for comic effect, sometimes for tragic effect. You write in one poem, artists are in themselves putrid with paradox. It's a funny line. And you've got a poem called Drift. Remember that poem? A lot of paradoxical lines in this poem. I'm curious about what kind of truth, what kind of larger point is produced by paradox?
Yeah.
What does a paradox say that an explicit statement could not say?
Rob Casper published this poem in Juilliard.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
Drift. I'll go anywhere to leave you, but come with me. All the cities are like you anyway. Windows darken when I get close enough to see. Any place we want to stay is polluted, the good spots taken already by those who ruin them. And restaurants we'd never find. We'd rut in a ditch by a river in nights. I just saw a typo. We'd rut in a ditch by a river in nights so long they must be cut by the many pairs of wrong-handled scissors maybe God owns and doesn't share. I water God. I make a haunted lake and rinse and rinse. I take what I want and have ever since. What I want disappeared like anything hunted. That's what you said. Disappointment isn't tender, dried and wide instead. The tourists snapped you crying, and the blanket I brought was so dirty it must have been lying around in lice and blood that whole year we fought. It wasn't clear, so I forgot. I haven't been sleeping next to you, twitching to bury my boring eyes. The ship made you sad, and the ferry, and canoe. All boats do.
It's a love poem, in a sense.
That was a sad time.
Sad love poem.
Yeah. So paradox, what is the use of paradox? I don't know who said this thing, and I think it could be used for equally sort of freedom and happiness and also fascism. This idea that sort of any truth, also a really interesting truth, its own inversion is also true. This idea that, that the opposite of something is actually just another version of itself. I'm fascinated by this idea. It comes up over and over again. One of the great explorers of this idea is the poet James Richardson. He does this in his aphorisms a lot. Kind of, he'll take a whole thing and split it apart and show you that the parts that make the whole are actually sort of the opposite of itself, or the outlines of it. And it's a way of thinking that I'm really fascinated with, and I always have been. So paradox, when you look at something that seems unlikely, you have to go to what splits them and unites them. Like, what's the seam between the two elements that seem like jarring?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in that split, in that line. I always have been. I think that as a biracial person, like, I've always felt kind of on both sides of that. That the very way of being feels like a paradox if you're talking about race.
Right.
And it doesn't come down to math or physiology. It doesn't come down to science. It comes down to something else that's ineffable. I'm curious how many ways we are actually living sort of paradoxical constructions where we sort of think they're just the categories, So that seems important to me.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a good structure for a poem about a relationship that gives you joy and sorrow at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lover or a partner, and you always think like, oh, love is so happy and wonderful, and then you're actually in love with the person. This is terrible. This is like, this person who's brought me so much joy is actually giving me so much pain, and of course they're totally together. And this is that amazing word cleave, right? Because it means both the same thing. It means itself and its own opposite. Contronyms, I think they're called. I'm fascinated by those. But also too, it's not just in love poems, although love poems are so, they sort of yield this concern so well. But the question of, being a parent also has this too, like, is this a child that's separate, or is this also a part of me, and how do I, there's no way to reconcile it. Whatever seam is there between the two beings is fluid, it keeps changing, doesn't really, doesn't stay still. That line is a constant in so many things.
Yeah, it's very illuminating. You wrote a poem about studying with Billy Collins.
I did write a poem about writing a study with Billy Collins, and I totally regret that I did that.
Would you like to read it now then?
No, please skip that,
So that
please.
it's a part of the library's permanent collection?
It's okay that I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your third collection begins, "Artless is my heart." But that's clearly not true.
It is.
It is not.
It is. Because artless is that old-fashioned word which means the opposite of what you think it means. Like, when you think of the word artless, we think it means like without art, without aesthetic, without beauty, but it's this old-fashioned
Oh, yes.
word that you know the meaning, where it's like
Yes.
she's artless, she's without guile,
Right.
she's not fake,
Yes.
she doesn't have these wiles.
Right.
So it kind of means both things.
Yes. In a poem called "The Lamp Garden," you write, "As you start to write a page, it doesn't appear appallingly blank. Something is soothing, encouraging, like steam on the bathroom mirror that wishes you to draw your face in it. You can tell when a sentence is hard to write, whether it is because there's a knot in your throat or in the tree before it was your tablet." Do you feel that sort of physical relationship with a blank page when you sit down to write a poem?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that is such a much better question than do you use a computer or a pen. It's so much more interesting. Oh, because I do think, I mean, things are very physical, right?
Yes.
You're joking, right?
I was not going to ask that.
But you need your questions. I mean, I think physically of my head expanding and going back, Bride of Frankenstein's hair, you know, or Marge Simpson is another good example. Sort of this, and it kind of it's sort of. I'm not trying to visualize this. This is just this like weird thing that happens, and it's like a back brain, and it opens up and back where I can't see it, but it's working and it opens up. It's like a portal. So whatever's happening on the blank page, it looks like a blank page, except for, do you remember those pictures that we used to have at malls? They're called Magic Eye.
Oh, yeah. I
You'd stare
never
and go,
could see it.
This is just a bunch of dots. And
Could
it
you
was
see
like,
it?
I could sometimes, but it was not until I was really frustrated. Bunch of dots, and then someone's like, "It's a dolphin," and you're like, ugh. And you can't will yourself, and it's about relaxing. And so the blank page is this thing where it's always mocking you, right? It's like, it's like looking at you saying, you can't do it again.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to be able to do it again. What do you got? What do you got? You got nothing. Here's the proof. But I tell myself that every writer has to start with a blank page. You know, you can't write sort of on the back of your last thing that you finished writing. You start again. So the back brain helps me in this confrontation. It is a confrontation. And sometimes it's at the level of the pen where I'm just sort of looking at it going, this is going to be bad. No, maybe this is good? And then sort of this horrible, I don't know.
The steam on the mirror is such a great, encouraging image because everyone wants to do that. Everyone likes doing it. It's fun to do. It totally takes the intimidation out of the blank page, I think. It's a great way to think about it.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
It's very fun to do that.
And I haven't done that in a long time either. I'll try it again.
Did you read a poet's poem? Then I want you to tell us what a poet's poem is.
Well, you know there's a thing called a poet's poet. This is like a love poem to poets, just how hard it is to be a poet. What it's like to be a poet. A poet's poem. If it takes me all day, I will get the word freshened out of this poem. I put it in the first line, then moved it to the second, and now it won't come out. It's stuck. I am so frustrated, so I went out to my little porch all covered in snow and watched the icicles drip as I smoked a cigarette. Finally, I reached up and broke a big, clear spike off the roof with my bare hand and used it to write a word in the snow. I wrote the word snow. I can't stand myself. How circumscribed, we are, and then aware of that circumscription and the self-loathing. I own it.
The physical act of leaving the pen at your desk and going out and grabbing this giant frozen pen and writing in the earth.
But only being able to come up with its, like it doesn't need to be re-inscribed, the exact same word. That's all I can think of. That's the point. That's all you got? I'm already snow.
But the poem's wit deconstructs that sort of self-loathing.
Yeah, that's why I agreed to read it.
We're going to stand up, turn around, and sit back down. So that I'll let you stay.
Oh.
It's not an intermission. They don't leave. They don't even leave their chairs.
This is tough.
All doing okay? You're all here. Okay. Not so much? Not as much. Okay, let's sit down, please. As a young woman, did you look forward to becoming a mother?
I didn't think I was going to do that. No, I didn't think I was going to really, I thought that any kind of, I didn't know, honestly. I thought maybe, but I really didn't have a clear idea of that. No.
In that great poem I mentioned, Is There Something You Should Know? You got this great line. Basically, all the stories I heard about what it was really like to become a woman made me rather expect a kind of slow, gorgeous liquefaction, after which I would emerge a cross between Jessica Rabbit and Denise Huxtable. Was it like that for you?
No. As the rest of the poem explains, it was much rockier.
Your life has been punctuated by a particular tragedy surrounding your family. You write in another poem, not knowing how to grieve can poison like a directionless dart. In this series, we've talked to Ed Hirsch and Mary Jo Bang about the deaths of their sons, horrible, unspeakable tragedies that they found poetic language to speak about. You experienced something different. In the poem, you describe the birth of your first child, Cal, like this. You were hardly alive, hardly you. Horribly slime chanced. I blacked out hard, but I heard you were blue. In that moment, one vision of your son's future died, but he remained very much alive and someone to celebrate. That was the strangest thing for me when that happened to me. After a perfectly normal pregnancy, our daughter was born dark blue and not breathing for about 5 or 6 minutes. And the whole future that we had projected was gone. And another future that we didn't know anything about as young first-time parents was born. In a poem called Our Andromeda, you imagine a distant parallel world in which your son gets the babyhood he deserved. You think you can read that first section? 14. Sorry.
I almost never read this one.
You could just read from there.
When we get to Andromeda, Cal, you'll have the babyhood you deserved. All the groping at light sockets and putting sand in your mouth and learning to say mama and I want and sprinting down the yard as if to show me how you were leaving me for the newest outpost of Cal. You'll get the chance to walk without pain, as if such a thing were a matter of choosing a song over a book, of napping at noon instead of fighting it. You'll have the chance to fight every nap, every grown-up decision that bugs you, and it will be a fair fight. This time, Cal, in Andromeda, you will win.
What challenges emotional and artistic did you face as you made the decision to write about your son's experience and your experience with him?
Well, it's strange. We were encouraged to sue the hospital, and the lawyer, the hospital since went bankrupt, and so there wasn't very much for Cal. But the lawyer didn't put a gag on Craig and me, wouldn't let us write anything about Cal in our poems. They subpoenaed my diaries. They were very, very concerned with the idea that the hospital's defendants could make an argument that we were somehow profiting from this thing. So they wouldn't let us write anything at all. So we weren't allowed to write anything. We weren't allowed to express. I mean, it was a gag that went on for a few years. So I started writing what I really felt, knowing that it wasn't real, knowing that it wasn't going to be published, that it was just me, that I had to get this out. And I wrote most of it at Yaddo. So I was in Katrina's room at Yaddo. Now Katrina was the woman who started Yaddo. She had 3 children who all died. And there's a sort of thought that Yaddo was kind of haunted. So there I am. I had given birth to a beautiful baby boy who was really, really disabled and really compromised, and we didn't know what was in store for him. And I had gotten this precious 2 weeks, and there I was alone in this room, this beautiful room of a woman who lived there after suffering the death of her 3 kids. And my pen just flew. It just flew, and the first time this ever happened to me, which is it has happened to me since then, but this is the first time I was just writing and crying onto the page. So it was like it was smearing the ink, and it was just the pages were wet, and it was just, I just told myself, this isn't a thing, this isn't real, this isn't a real poem, this is just me getting it out. And so I can be as angry as I want, and I can blame anybody. I can say whatever I want, I can blame anybody. I don't have to be fair, I don't have to play by any rules. I can just say what is inside me, because no one can ever see it, and my son's alive. You know, I owe it to myself to explore all of that, so that I can get to a place where I can celebrate him. You know, where I can really see him for what he is, and not what happened to him, you know, but really get there with him. I had to get all this out of the way. So I had to get all this anger, all this rage, all of this terrible, terrible grief out of the way. And then the lawyer said, guess what? The hospital went bankrupt. You can write whatever you want, we don't care. There's no money. Like, your kid's not getting any money, we don't care what you do with your writing. And I didn't know if I would have the courage to think of it as a real poem, but it got there. It was the most profound writing experience I'd ever had.
You resist some natural problems with a subject like this, like sentimentality, on the one hand.
Natural problems or national problems?
Natural problems.
Natural problems. National problem of sentimentality. I don't. I felt like the most important thing was that I couldn't be afraid.
Yes.
I'd never been a mom before. It was my first time.
Yes.
And I felt like if I sound like a doting mother who thinks their kid's the most amazing kid in the world,
Yes.
Screw it. Fine. You know, like, give me that. I'll take it.
Yes.
I was sort of more afraid of the basically, I felt like I'd been lied to. So much about motherhood that I'd read was about, like, it's so beautiful and amazing, you feel so fulfilled, and I was just like, this is like the most, this is the saddest, most grueling, grating, most, like, devastating, pulverizing thing I've ever been through. And I just felt like, if I'm going to say anything at all that means anything to me,
Yes.
I have to find some words for that truth,
How do you keep your sense of blame and guilt from just consuming you and the poem.
I don't know.
You say in this section, it's all my fault, you see. I can blame just about anyone for what happened to you, but ultimately it was my job to get you into this world, and I failed. There's no other way to look at it.
I mean, I can tell myself that's not what I really believe, but I can't make myself believe it.
Did writing that help you
Yes.
realize that was not, in fact, the whole story?
But, I mean, this is where the sort of notions of motherhood lie to one, because they say, your job is to protect your kid,
Yes.
and you have no choice but to feel this way.
Yes.
Did I write this whole poem to try to get myself out of feeling this terrible guilt? Maybe. It definitely failed, if that's the case. Getting it out and at least I wasn't afraid of admitting it anymore. It's, to me, I didn't know at the time I wrote it, but the hardest time of dealing with Cal's injuries and subsequent medical stuff and the surgeries and all this stuff was the months after his diagnosis, before I could accept it. When we got this terrible diagnosis, he's not going to walk, he's not going to talk. And when I was still like, no, that can't happen, that can't be true, that can't be. That was the most painful time of my life.
Yes.
It was when I finally accepted it and said, okay, you know what? This kid's going to have a different kind of life. Time for me to just let it in, let it happen. Just stop fighting it. And that's really, at the very least, what that moment in that poem can do. I'll always blame myself. I'm the mom. What else? I mean, that's I can't open the role up bigger
Right.
to pretend that somehow that's never going to be there.
But now you have days when you aren't thinking about it all the time, right?
Yeah.
But there was a time when you could not imagine that you wouldn't think about it every minute.
It's kind of always there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that it's not all rage and terror and grief. It's also, this really deep adoration and sweetness and tenderness, and it's many other things. The sad thing when something happens to your kid, it makes you feel like this is just how it's going to always be. But no matter who your kid is, they change and develop, and your relationship with them changes, and there's so much new that happens. I didn't know that. I thought I would always be stuck feeling that way.
Yeah.
I couldn't bear it. Writing poems did make me feel like I was pushing the process along or moving the emotions around so at least they didn't get stuck.
Right.
I did think that if those emotions got stuck where they were, it would be so toxic.
Yes.
Yeah.
You write about your friends and how they
My so-called friends.
really, really let you down in ways that I recognize so bitterly.
Did that happen to you?
So bitterly.
That is really painful, isn't it?
It is amazing. Our favorite line is one of our best friends telling us months later, I sensed something was wrong, so I didn't call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a bunch of those.
You refer to the toxicity of their shit on your life, something like that, yeah. How did you get the courage to write about, I mean, certainly they would read these poems, they might even recognize themselves, or maybe not, maybe they're so blinded by self-righteousness.
Yeah, I don't think people tend not to recognize themselves. All the great villains, all fiction writers all say this, all the great villains in like these memoirs and fiction, like they never recognize themselves. Like that person was awful. It's like, ew. I mean, I've never had anybody, I've had people think that it was them. I've had people say like, are you talking about me? And it's like, I don't really even know you. No. I mean, it had to be there and like in my life to have done this.
Exactly.
And
you said the childish friends were okay, that they reacted with
Amazing.
humanity. But
amazing.
The parents with their own perfect children were
Couldn't
terrified
deal.
into viciousness.
Couldn't deal. They just dumped us.
Yeah. You become a kind of symbol of their worst dread.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like I say, the poem is a lot of sort of bargaining. So it's like, you should be happy. It happened to my kid, not yours. You should look at my kid and be like, phew, that happened to you. I'm over here. I'm relatively safe.
Yes.
That's not how it works.
It's a long, you're not getting a fair, it's a long, complex poem that moves this woman through, the speaker through a beautiful and very, very painful process. I did have to wonder about, I did want to ask whether the friends recognize themselves.
I would be so satisfied if they did.
Wouldn't it be?
I did not have that satisfaction.
Would you read the final part of our Andromeda?
Yeah.
It's on from 126, 15.
Okay. You are really organized with these little red. You used a whole packet of this. Okay. The truth? I've been wrong, or I've been lying, or I've been ignorant. It doesn't matter which, but now it's time to give it up. You came from Andromeda, Cal, that other galaxy. Came to me, to us, the moment you were born, when the membrane between worlds snapped and all that alien love flooded my body. It came from you. There was awful confusion because you didn't seem to be of this world and the ordinary humans didn't know what to do. Not even me. Mommy and her stories, those fairy tales we have, wretched and unending, children lost in woods. No wonder you've always looked at me so quizzically. A story like that is too tiny to contain Andromeda and you. Lost in the Milky Way, magical boy, weak from his first intergalactic journey to my arms. I found you, didn't I? I'm here. We found each other. We are here. This is why I don't usually read this. And here is where we belong, for here is where you are you, exactly you, not some other boy in some other world. I was wrong to mourn so. He deserves better, and so forth. You are better. Better than any lesser truth I could invent. I opened my eyes from that long dream to find you here, my perfect child. You taught me the truth, Cal. Accept the truth from whoever gives it, the ancients said to your people. The truth is you are the truth. A child born to a liar who was learning to change. A dashing boy who may never walk, who traveled so far to be here. A joyful boy who may never talk, who ruthlessly teaches the teacher the truth about where children really live, where you are alive. You are the most perfect Calvin Makoto Taisher of the universe, a tough, funny beauty of a boy who holds my hand and blinks his eyes until I'm excruciated, mad with love. How hard it was for you to convince me that I deserve that love. My glorious son, a mother's boast is never merely delusion. A mother knows, if she can forgive herself for not knowing. I know now, Cal. Your frail arms are perfect arms. Your uncertain eyes, perfect eyes. Your anguish, your illness, your pain, your difficulty, your discovery, your joy is my joy, and it is a perfect, boundless joy. God must exist, a God for me after all. And he must be good, everlastingly so, to have given you to me. I don't need any more proof than this. You in my arms, your little searching fingers on my face. Wistful, graceful stars on a wet, clear night. Galaxies exploding everywhere around us, exploding in us, Cal, faster than the lightest light, so much faster than love. And our Andromeda, that dream, I can feel it living in us like we are its home, like it remembers us from its own childhood. Or maybe, Cal, we are home, if God will let us live here, with Andromeda inside us. Doesn't it seem we belong? Now and then will you help me belong here, in this place where you became my child, and I your mother, out of some instant of mystery of crash and matter, scattered through the cosmos. God scooped and poured toward our bodies with so much love somehow. I am so tired I cannot beat my own heart anymore. Cal, shall we stay? Oh, let's stay. We've only just arrived here, rightly, whirling and weeping, freely, breathing, brightly born.
is such a triumph of a poem. I don't think I have anything left to say. Thank you so much. It's been I'll just never forget this evening.
Me too. Thank you.
Thank you all.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.